way that generally we look at them in the English language is that happiness is in the rearview mirror, right? It requires us to be reflective. It tends to be on a continuum, the way that we've defined it, right? And so, am I happy is this construct that we make of, some sort of timeline and then comparing it to, where we rank within our social structure. And that's why it's changing all the time. We often talk about these lottery studies. It's why someone can have this huge windfall and then a year later, just be right back where they left it. And that's because it is an evaluative kind of concept. And fun is quite different in the sense that, yes, it's something that we can do and it is meant to come and go. But if you understand that you have the agency to implement it essentially every week, it means you always have something to look forward to. Even if you're in a time, you mentioned that I lost my brother. Like during that period, after I kind of realized that I did need to mourn because I tried to circumvent that, I was like, my brother wouldn't want me to be sad. It doesn't matter. My brain wanted me to be sad, right? And the fact that I was trying to, compartmentalize and push that down rather than go through it is part of the reason that I was getting less and less happy. But anyone facing any sort of change or something where happiness is an appropriate emotional response can still create this affect of joy, by connecting with the things that they like, whether that's hanging out with a best friend or, just getting back into, something that you really liked, right? Some of the hesitant there is the complexity of writing a book like The Fun Habit is that is going to be unique to everyone, right? Again, it's the only reason I brought up the reviews because I think it's cute, that
Yeah.
like,
Right.
The disconnect of like having to have this definition can really get in the way. And so you get to decide, right? Some people are really tactile. So it could just be being in the garden. And even though that doesn't feel like it's bringing pleasure into your life, it really is a joyful activity because it's something that is bringing you out of that malaise that you're in. So whatever that looks like for you, figuring out that balance, because especially if it's not in your schedule at all, you need to come back to it, right? So oftentimes when we find ourselves in midlife, it's been absent for so long that we need to figure out what it is that we do like, right? Because maybe we've been going to gym meets for so long for our littles that we found a way to create friendships, with the other parents, but that might not be the things that truly light us up, right? It's still through this lens of these are the things I need to do to get through my week. And so, what are just a few things that you can create in your schedule? And that's what you mentioned with the fun file. I suggest just whether it's a fun file or a piece of paper or a Google Doc, like figuring out what are the things that you do want to do in your life that once you do them, you will feel like that you got to do them and that they brought you some joy.